Equality in the broad sense, which is how we look at it, means fairness. It means that everybody has equal opportunities. It means that systems treat people fairly. It certainly includes the absence of discrimination. You know, if somebody doesn't hire somebody because of their religion or the color of their skin, that would be discrimination, and we would certainly want to address that as a matter of equality. But discrimination can be systemic as well. It can happen because of things that have been in place for a very long time. If there are poor educational opportunities in certain communities, if there's lack of infrastructure or services, that's an equality issue as well. If there are hunches that police have about people based on the color of their skin or the clothing that they're wearing, that too is an equality issue, even if nobody had any conscious malintent. But that is still an equality issue, and it certainly is experienced as discrimination on the part of the person who might get stopped by the police officer. So equality at its base is about fairness and about justice. Okay. What are some of the different kinds of equality issues that we face in Canada? So into the canvas for you, what are some of the different equality issues that we face in Canada? There are many different equality issues that we face in Canada. They include issues on the basis of race, discrimination on the basis of race, systemic discrimination on the basis of race. One of the issues that CCLA has worked on for a long time is the racial profiling of people by police. And again, by that we don't necessarily mean a policy that police will go after people based on the color of their skin, but just that that's in fact what seems to be happening in many different places across Canada. Another equality issue is the rights of LGBTQ people. So one of the issues that CCLA has been involved in is the equality rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning people in schools to a safe and inclusive educational environment. We produce materials, we've done work, we've worked with young people. Another issue that has a very important equality component is refugee rights, the protection of refugees. In the last few years, the government has made some very significant changes for the worse in how Canada treats refugees, eroding the protections that we give to refugees, that I think many Canadians want to give to refugees, that we have international obligations that we have chosen to undertake to protect refugees, and international obligations that we are required to protect refugees who arrive in Canada. And the changes in the last few years to the refugee determination system have eroded those protections. The attempt to take refugee health care away has eroded the protections that we should be providing. And CCLA has been involved in that and a number of other issues. One other issue we could talk about in the equality program, again, there are quite a few, has to do with the rights of people who have mental health issues. There was a case that CCLA intervened in very recently that went before the Ontario Court of Appeal concerning the Mental Health Act of Ontario, which effectively made it possible for a man to be sitting in a maximum security mental health facility for 18, 19 years. And although his psychiatrist said he doesn't need to be in a maximum security setting, it's not even clear that he needs to be in any kind of institutional facility. He might be ready for release into the community with certain protections in place. He was effectively warehoused in that facility for 18 years because the review board that was supposed to oversee his detention didn't have the legal authority to release him with conditions or to move him to a facility that was more appropriate for his needs. They didn't have the authority to order that he could get the treatments and assessments that he needed, or that he would get the language services that he needed, because in addition to having mental health issues, he also had a hearing impairment. And so he sat and continues to sit despite the fact that there was a win at the Ontario Court of Appeal, and they agreed that this was intolerable injustice. I'm going to read this one out without looking into the camera because it's long. Sometimes it feels as though the problems are too big for one person to have any impact. Can one person make a difference? And how can people become more engaged in working to prevent or speak up against discrimination in their communities or in the wider political arena? Civil liberties issues, human rights issues, equality issues are very big. And people who are marginalized or feel vulnerable would perhaps have an even harder time than others in speaking up for themselves. One situation that came to our attention a few years ago involved a young woman who wanted to start a club for other lesbian and gay students and their friends and allies at her school. And this was a school in the Peel Dufferin Catholic District School Board. And the school said, no, you can't have a club like that. So she organized with her friends. She tried to speak to the principal. She tried to work things out. Eventually, she got in touch with the journalist, and the journalist put her in touch with us, with me, and we said, we believe you have a charter right to freedom of association and to create this club. Yes, you're a young person. Yes, you're in school. Yes, there are going to be certain restrictions that the school places on you. But we don't believe those restrictions should go as far as saying you can't have a gay-straight alliance or an LGBTQ positive club. We think you have the right to create a club like that. It's a matter of freedom of expression, freedom of association, as well as equality. Because at base, this was about who she was within that school and who her friends were and the issues that they wanted to bring to people's attention. So this young woman, together with another young man in the club, they pushed, and the school pushed back. She was called into the principal's office on more than one occasion. She was told that she must stop speaking to the media. She was threatened with various kinds of academic discipline, one way or another. Threats that did not go forward, but perhaps didn't go forward because our organization referred her to a lawyer who was able to speak to the school and say, what's going on? But none of that would have happened without her courage to face the school and say, this isn't right, this isn't fair, I'm being treated with injustice. Her courage to let other people know, to share her words with friends. She created a Facebook group to share it with the press, and then to work with others in the community, an organization like ours who were able to provide, and other organizations as well. Other organizations as well, like Queer Ontario, who were able to provide support. So following that, there was a change in the law. There was enough noise made that there was a change in the law, and the Ontario legislature changed the Education Act to establish that students who want to create LGBTQ positive clubs in their schools have a right to do so, not just under the human rights laws and the Charter, but also under Ontario's Education Act, and that schools had a duty to provide for those clubs where students wanted them. The changes that came about because this young woman and another young man got together, organized their friends, created a Facebook page, organized other students at the school, faced the principal, got in touch with the wider public through the media, through us, through other organizations like Queer Ontario that were able to provide support of various kinds, and ultimately led to a change in the law. And the Ontario legislature, in its Anti-Bullying Act, amended the Education Act to say that the school has a duty to support students who want to form a gay-straight alliance or another kind of LGBTQ positive club. Following that, another young man faced homophobia and bullying in his school. He alleges that he faced it both by school teachers and administrators, but also that he faced it by other students, and the school did not provide the kind of supports and resources that he required, that they didn't uphold their obligation to maintain a safe and inclusive environment for him as a student. And he filed an action, a human rights complaint against the school, and is demanding systemic remedies, asking the school to create policies and to change the way that they do things so the students will get the support that they needed and will feel safe, that homophobic literature, what he alleges to be homophobic literature, will be removed from the curriculum, and that other pieces will be included in the curriculum. And he hasn't been silent about it either. He's brought it to the attention of the media, he's brought it to the attention of other organizations so that other students know about what's happening, so that other students in his position feel like they too can speak up, and so that other students who may not be in his position can come forward as allies and supporters. So yeah, one person most certainly can make a difference.